Yo, what's goody? Spur in the building. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Kueen Talk. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And check out these lovely shirts, guys. You see something new? Look. Family, friends, strangers, love, be nice. We got the Kueen Talk. And we have another one with Wichita Pride. If you guys are interested, I will be at Wichita Pride at the end of this month on the 29th. From 11 to 4 at Century 2. I will also be at M-Care Thursday when this drops. Thursday, I will be there from 4 to 10. So yeah, come check it out. It's HIV test day. We'll be there. Vendors will be there. You can come get tested for free. So make sure you come and show up and show out. But today's special guest is Angel Jara. Please help me welcome Angel Jara. Thank you for joining me today.
No, thank you for having me. Hi, my name is Angel. I sign also. I've been doing it for only about 4 years. So
I appreciate you representing today too. You got the shirt on.
I do.
Yeah, so I met Angel at my first Pride event, which was the ICT Big Gay Market, and you, your wife, you came and your son.
Yes.
You guys were interested, and I signed you up. We got it going from there.
We did. I loved your little booth. It was awesome, and it was actually our first family Pride together thing that we did together.
Oh, nice.
It's our first time. Yes, and we're actually going to Pride together, all of us.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, It was a great turnout at ICT Big Gay Market. There was over 100 something vendors there.
It was so heartwarming the way just the community came together. It was lovely.
Yes. Yeah, it was awesome. And like I said, I got to meet like you guys. I met like a lot of people while I was there to be a part of this. So when you seen my booth, like what did you think when you were like you seen a podcast for what was your first thought when you initially seen it?
I was actually excited.
Yeah.
Very, very excited. I wanted to come and talk to you because I felt the energy.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. And you're so kind.
I appreciate that.
And you really let out that energy. You do. And I was like, wow, let's go over there. I feel the energy over there. It's really good. Your booth was so nice and everything was just set up so lovely. And I was just so welcoming.
I appreciate that. Like that's the goal of Kueen Talk is I want people to see like how welcoming it is. Yes. And I want to be seen, like that representation be seen. And that's why I think it's so important to have all the diversity on this platform to show that representation, and that's what Kueen Talk is about. Like,
yes,
and that's why I love it. And then like you're signing right now, which you said you started that 4 years ago.
Yes.
What got you into signing? When did you start that?
Actually, I started because I'm a veteran.
Okay.
I served in the military, and
thank you for your service.
Thank you. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I met the best friends I could ever meet, and especially being a gay person, it was very hard to find the niche, to where to be okay and still be in uniform and still have the friendships that you have, knowing what you are, and finding those few friends that you too. Oh yes, me too, and having to hide together basically because I was in when it was not.
Okay, so I was just about to ask that. Were you in it with the don't ask, don't tell era?
Yes, and unfortunately, I was.
So did it seem like you said you still found and grasped those people?
Yes.
So what was that like for you? Was it don't ask, don't tell, but you could still be yourself if you found that within the community?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. It was don't ask, don't tell. Keep it to yourself. Okay. Be in uniform, be professional, which is military anyway. You go in there for the unison, you go in there for the same, setup. Everybody's the same. You rank up through education, you rank up through, that part is very understandable, which I did get that, the uniformity of it. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with that. That's great. It gives you structure. It's just the fact of individuality wise, I tell my friends now that are young, because I'm 46. Mm-hmm. So I'm old.
Nah,
but
in your
but
prime.
I've told my friends, if you're going to go in, you have to understand something. Pride is a beautiful thing. Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful. I mean, I've been gave since birth, probably, from what I understand, from what I know. But, I tell them all the time, it's not about individuality. Mm-hmm. You have to understand, which I get gays in the military, which for me, great, it was less stressful. Because when I was in, it was so stressful. You couldn't speak about it. You couldn't show any personification of it. If you did and you got caught, it was very stressful. You got questioned. You actually got put in an office with your superior officer, with your first lieutenant for the commanding chain that would walk you in there and they say, hey.
Did that ever happen to you, or were
yes.
you did?
It did. It was very hard. I was on USS Front Cable, and we had a couple of people come on board that we call the Weekend Warriors, which is just like they do it on the weekend every 2 weeks or whatever.
Okay.
And so they came on board and they complained that they saw activity that was gay-like activity with certain people, and it was like a witch hunt. It was not fun. It was not okay. I was already a female, and it's hard to be a female in the military. It really is to move up. And I moved up very quickly to like second class within just a couple of years because I studied and I made sure. And my goal was to like retire. That was actually my goal, to want to retire out of the military. We had people come in, they complained, and they sat me down. And they're like, hey, you're very popular. You're well known. You move up your ranks, and we need to keep it quiet. What's going on? There's rumors going around. And I'm just like, I've done nothing. Mm-hmm. I'm very private. Especially moving up in rank. I was very careful.
Yeah, definitely have to watch your moves and stuff.
Yeah, and it was very stressful because you couldn't show anything. Because if you did, you had it was a very homophobic time. It really was. And it was very challenging. Yeah. So me, especially being the girl, and they were like, oh, she's this. Oh, and she's moving up in rank. Oh, heck no. And they're like, we're going to knock her down as fast as we can. Yeah. And then rudely enough, they were like, well, we're going to send you to Captain's Mass.
What's that?
And it's kind of like going to a legal event where you're going to be marked off. Like when you're going to lose rank, you're going to lose days, you're going to lose everything.
Oh, so
you go see the captain, and then there's other lieutenants, whatever, and you go up there, and they say you've been accused of this. Oh. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie with the you don't want to know the truth. I forgot the movie of it. But it's basically the same thing. It was just like you're being accused of this, and we're going to hit you a rank. So instead of a second class, you're going to be a third class. And I worked hard for it.
So you got demoted?
I got demoted very quickly, and I got 30 days of having to be on the ship and never leaving.
So that was your punishment?
That was my punishment. 30 days of rank drop and rate drop. So I lost money, and I got demoted. And I had to do 30 days where you couldn't leave the station of the ship.
So without any hard proof evidence, it was just all hearsay.
Yes.
He say, she say.
Yes.
And
that was enough. That was like me, if I stay quiet and take this, then I'll be left alone.
So were you able to rank back up after that, or were you...
I did. I was going to rank up again, and the same situation happened.
So it happened to you multiple times?
Multiple times. And it was very stressful. It was very hard. And I was like, I'm not doing anything. And they're like, well, the second time they took me in, weird enough, is they told me, well, you can give us names. You can tell us who you know who you're aware of that is also, since you're not saying, but we're saying you are, and it's been said you are. And if you give us that, you can move up in your rank. We'll put you a new station, and you'll be fine. All you have to do is give us names. I was so scared, and they even had me where I couldn't talk to anybody. They had 2 petty officers with me at all times.
What year was this?
This was in 1998.
1998?
98, close to before the things went on and the war started, But this was just a very calm time, so they had time to mess with all of us, and I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. I need a lawyer.
Oh. You got a lawyer.
I got a lawyer because they were threatening me again. And I said, I want a lawyer because they were like, well, we're going to hit you in rank. We're going to hit you 30 days. I was just like, what? They're like,
Not
so you're going to
again.
go from third class to a seaman. And I was just like, you're taking my rank again. They're like, yeah, because you disrespected a petty officer. And I was just like, what did I do? They're like, well, you disrespected her. She gave you a command. You didn't obey. So now you're going to go ahead and hit rank. And I was just like, they were punishing me for other reasons because they couldn't hit me for the direct reason why they wanted to.
Because they had no hard evidence.
They had no hard evidence. All they had was hearsay.
Yeah.
So, and that's how it was. And they, like, I went in the room with my lawyer, and their lawyer came up, and I was just like, hello, just center. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so stressful. Yeah. And I was like, help me. And she's like, I'm going to help you. She goes, but just to warn you, they're probably going to send you to X or Y, which is like higher. And it's like going to like actual like court, military court. Okay. And she's like, they're going to try and take you to court if they hit you a third time. And I was just like, what is going on? What am I doing? I'm not even doing anything. I'm just doing my job. I'm
literally just trying to serve your country.
Trying to serve my country because I loved my job. I loved serving for my country. It's why I joined so young because I was like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to travel. And I made amazing friends out of it when we were all holding on to each other. Yeah. And they were like, oh my God, what did they do? And I was like, they want me to give names. My friends were so awesome. Like when I could see them, because after a while they put me with 2 other petty officers again, so I couldn't speak to anybody. Jeez. So they actually isolated me to even where I went, like wherever I worked, they were there with me.
Oh wow! So you were like being supervised and watched.
Yeah, and it was so I was just like on edge, but like part of me just let go and was like, you know what? I'm not going to take away my honor. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to hurt my friends. I'm just not going to do it. Right. It's not in me. I'm serving my country. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm following through. I'm moving up in rank with my intelligence, taking these tests, doing what I need to do. You know, I'm not going to do this. And the lawyer was like, well, just to let you know, if you don't give you the list, you know, they're going to hit you again. Mm-hmm. So weird enough, they did it again. Chief, I didn't even know who the chief was, came up and said I disrespected her. Mm. So
you went to the court and you stood in front of the court again.
Yeah, that I threatened her life.
So
it was like a much more serious. I could have gone to Leavenworth out of the fact that I threatened a chief petty officer's life, which I didn't. But it was my word against a chief. Yeah, and I had already been in trouble. Mm-hmm. Twice, so I was a problem.
Yeah, so the third time that you went to the court, how did it get solved? Because you served out in the military.
Yes, I did.
You were able to stay, and
I was able to fight and get it done. And the lawyer actually got a bunch of witnesses that were there that for me on my side, which was cool, and she broke them down. It was awesome. She was just like, "So you said this. By the way, Petty Officer Jara, she didn't she bust you for this and you had to get written up for?" Like, it was awesome. Like, she was each one personally on me why they would come after me. Yeah. And it was people that they got that were like, that I had written up before that they grabbed to try to report me. Yeah. And they finally, like, it was awesome. It was like a movie. Yeah, she broke them down. Yeah.
It's brave enough to just go to the military, right? Yes. To just sign up to fight for the country. Yes. I'm too scared. So again, thank you for your, like, I'm terrified, but like to do it and then also know that you can get reprimanded for being a part of the community. Like you were just confident within yourself and to serve the country. That didn't matter to you. So, 'cause you knew right before you went in and you joined, when was it that you knew you were a part of the community?
I actually learned in high school.
High school?
High school. Okay. Yeah, I was in high school, and I dated like the jock boys because I was in track and I was a cheerleader and all the fun stuff that we are. Yeah. And I was trying to fit in. Yeah. You know, the straight community.
In LA, you grew up in LA, huh?
I grew up in LA with the Latin family, Latin community. So it's very hard to be. You couldn't be gay at any point, lesbian, gay, anything. You just, because it was also a very Roman Catholic situation. So the church is there, you know, everyone's there. So it was very hard. Yeah. So I didn't discover it till high school because then I had a little more freedom. Then, you know, you're more at school and people are more expressive. Yeah. So I was just like, oh, I like this. Yeah. This is nice. These people are sweet. Well, hey, so what's your preference? And I was just like, my what? Like I was so blind. I was such a nerd. I just didn't even know. I was like, oh, but like what, pie? What, I mean, they're like, no, like you're perfect. Do you like date boys or girls? And I was like, boys.
Yeah. And they're didn't even know it was an option.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was. I was like, boys, that's all I date. And they're like, We sang it like that. Like they said, like you're saying, like that's all you got to choose. And I was like, I do. Have you met my mother? Like, have you met my family? Like, we're so huge in that area that they knew my whole family. So I was like, do you know them? Have you met them? They're like, yeah, we know them.
Yeah.
And I was like, so
So you've had to keep it quiet, even before the military. Like,
even before the military.
So like in your home and the dynamic, you never said anything to.
No, I didn't express anything. I just dated boys like they wanted, and like it's funny. Like I let them choose. Like you're so complacent. You're so like you want to make them happy. You just kind of go with the flow. So oh, there's this boy. You should date him. Like okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do what makes them happy, not for yourself.
Let me try it. And it never worked out, and I didn't know why. I was like, I just was not attracted. I just, I was, and they had to be like pretty. I know it sounds weird, but a guy had to be really pretty for me to be like, oh, you look interesting. Yeah. I'm up for this. You know, and I was like, something's wrong. Yeah. And they're like, nothing's wrong. And I had my best friend that was like, hey, I have a friend. I want to introduce you. And I was like, sure. And we got along fine. And like, was in a band. I went to go watch and was just awesome. And I was like, wow, she's really pretty. She's like, yeah, she thinks you're pretty too. I was like, oh, that's nice of her. Duh. So, no idea.
Still making it like the friend zone situation.
I'm totally friend zoning automatically. Yeah. That's what I was like just friend zone. Just get like, I kind of talk to Father Padre later. I don't want to be in trouble. It hits you. Like you really fight with it. And I did fight with it for a good while, but I was like, I liked her. Yeah. And so we did end up together.
And this was in high school?
And this was in high school. We ended up together, but my mom didn't. Like, my family had no idea. Okay. I did not tell them. That was just my special friend. And my mom always said, your special friend. I think she knew, but she just didn't want to,
Did you ever have that conversation? End up having a conversation with your mother?
I did.
At what age were you?
I was actually coming back from boot camp. Okay. I was already an adult. Okay. When I finally came back from boot camp, and weird enough, when I showed up from home, there was a slender type gentleman in the front of my house. Never seen him before. It's my mom's house. I walk up. I was like, "Hey, what are you doing in my mom's yard?" Turns around. It's my little sister. Oh. Dressed like a cholo. The gangsta, the shorts, and I'm just like, "Is he?" And she's like, yeah, hey, what's up? I was like, what happened to you? And my mom threw a shoe at my head. I kid you not, from the front porch, hit me with the shoe. And I was just like, she's sensitive. Don't tell her that. I was like, really? Now
I've been gone. I'm trying to figure
out what's happening here. Yeah. And she's like, well, your sister Izzy has been going through some stuff, and she's gay, and my mom's being so casual about it. Yeah. With me, she yelled at me, and she was so mad, and how dare I, let down the family and the church, and I went through a whole different level, and Izzy was like, "Thanks for opening the door, man." I was just like, "Wow, I'm so mad at you." Right now.
So you had a conversation with your mom beforehand, and it was like that. She
didn't talk to me for a year.
And were you in high school?
I was in high school. I had just graduated and told her.
And then you left.
I left for the military. And came back and saw my brother, and like my brother, not my brother. Okay. But I was just like, wow. And then my other little sister ended up gay also, but she's more a gothic gay. Okay. So my mom got hit by 3. Yes. And my mom actually said, I think that was the Lord trying to show me patience, trying to show me acceptance because of the way I was with you. Yeah. She goes, I got hit by 3 daughters. And she's like, well, now a son and 2 daughters. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And there's 6 of us. So, 3
well, that's good. So now, that's good that she,
oh, she's like the embarrassing mom now that wears the stuff and wants to go to pride. I go too. And I'm sitting there like, Mom.
Yeah. That you had to experience that,
the negative side.
The negative. Yeah. But for your siblings to come out of it and just... They obviously seen you. Yeah. They seen. And were they old enough to know the pain that you endured with your mom? Do you think
they understood after? They did. They were like, I'm sorry you went through that, but thank you. Yeah. They're like, but thank you. Yeah. Because after your shock, because you were the girliest one of all of us. Yeah. And, and the one that did all this stuff, and you made her mad. Like, she freaked out. We were freaked out too to tell her, but we're like, well, she lived through it. Mm-hmm. She still talks to her. You know, maybe I could do it. And they came out also. So
my mom was just awesome.
like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, I got to deal with it now. I got three.
Yeah, I got three of you. I was like, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to hear, like, you know, we have to give our parents grace, like, with their reactions. Just, I've had this talk in the past of just, like, with my guests, of their belief and idea of what their child was gonna be.
Yes.
It's like grieving that process of knowing that's not the case anymore, and that realization, like, this isn't the parents' lives. Like, growing up, we're young adults. We're gonna do what we want. Like, don't have a set expectations of us. Yes. I think that's in general too, of just like when parents want your kids to play sports or play this instrument, and you just have this idea, and then when your kid doesn't grow up that way, you have to grieve that process of what it is. So just like having that open idea of not just set, like, you thinking I can only date this man. Yes. Like, starting off at a young age of giving that option, like you were taking your son now to these pride events, letting him
I broke the cycle, as they said, because I did, you know, I sat down with him and was like, hey, buddy, just so you know, I'll accept you no matter which way you go. I don't care which way you go. As long as you're happy, healthy, and, you know, kind to everybody, I'm good with you. Mm-hmm. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah, baby. Yeah. He's like, well, I know, because you have you and mom, which to him, it's not a shocking situation because I broke that cycle. Yeah. When I had him, I gave that love, the acceptance, the big talks, you're great no matter what, and you know, you choose what makes you happy, and do this and that. Like, I broke that discipline, that straight cycle, that, you know, that punch in your head, you have to be this way. I just, like, I didn't like it, so I'm not going to do it to my kid. Yeah.
And it's, you brought up something with that. Your son was just like, are you sure? Like, even seeing that representation on a daily basis, two mothers in his home, he still is like, are you sure? Like, is this okay? And I think you brought up something like that's a good point of just like, even though it may be seen every day, like my cousins, they see me every day. Yes. But even though that, they're like, we go to spaces and they're like, my little cousin, she's a girl. She's like, oh, do you have a boyfriend? Not opening that conversation up. Oh, do you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend yet? Yeah. Instead of just like singling it out, making it, even though I'm sitting right here, they're still just saying one way and making the kids think this is the only way, or
that they
the
still
correct
say in front
way.
Of you, and you're like, okay.
Well, and in my head, like, this just happened this past weekend, and she was like, "Do you have a boyfriend?" And in my head, I'm thinking, well, does she have a girlfriend? Is she liking girls? She's in middle school now, so it's like she's finding her. So, and she always says there's no boys. So I'm just like, you can't close it off. I feel like
not anymore. Not anymore. And I didn't do that with him. I always say, you any girl or boy interested or they? Yeah. I would say, or anyone. He's like, well, thanks for asking, Mom. You know, and he's like, I'm not at that stage right now. He's like a really more mature than I ever was. Because when I was younger, I was all over the place, girl. I was, when I finally blossomed, as they said, and awoke, like, I dated so much. Yeah. And then my son's more like, he's so mature. He's only 18. He's like, you know, I'm not really in that package area, Mom, on myself. I'm not going to put it on someone else. Yeah. I'm not there. And I really don't have anything to give. So I'm good on not dating right now.
That's great.
And I'm just like,
it took me till 28 to realize I gotta fix myself before I get in a relationship. So good on him.
It's weird that he's got it down. Yeah. I'm like, well, you're better than I was when I was that age. I feel kind of ashamed of myself right now. But
so when did you come back from the military? Like, you came back from the military, you seen your sibling who was now identifying a part of the community.
Yes, as part of the community, and you know, very, very masculine, masculine. And the other one, she's gothic. Okay. So she's like a gothic-y, you know, boho style type. You know, so I'm like the only, as my mom says, girl that wears dresses and shorts and stuff like that. Where they're just not. No, you wouldn't catch them dead, anything like that.
And how old were you when you were done with your service in the military?
I was 27.
27. So you spent 9 years there? Yeah. 10 years in service?
10 years. In my service. And I loved every inch of it. I got to go outside. Like, funny enough, I've never traveled in the States, but I've traveled all outside the States. I was overseas all the time in Japan, Guam, Australia, you know. And the representation out there for the gay LGBT alliance is amazing.
Really?
It is.
That's probably why they was thinking y'all was gay. Y'all going to other countries. There's too many gay people over here.
She's going over there. She's going over there. Yeah. What's that bar about?
Yeah.
Like, shh, I'm going to the bar. I'll be back. You know. Yeah. But no, even then, like, I was careful not to go. Mm-hmm. And like I wanted to, but I'm in the military. So I can't take that chance of showing up at that bar. And if I have somebody like, and I'm going to say it, most of the males that hated that I was a female and I was moving up so fast, they did not. They really hated that.
Yeah.
And, you know, they were just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, studying.
Right.
Studying, passing my test, behaving, doing what I need to do, moving forward. Oh,
the goal.
Sure you don't know somebody? I was like, no, I have a goal and I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for any other reason, but for me to move up so I can retire doing this. But that's why I got out, was because it was becoming more and more stressful. After the court thing, and she got me out of it. Like, she broke it down. She got it out where they found me, you know, innocent, and I didn't do anything. I could go back to ship. She did tell me, just so you know, from now on you have a target on your back. Just so you know, you just prove them wrong. Yeah. You just fought against the U.S. military, just so you know. So you need to get out. And I was like, but I'm re-upping. So she's like, don't do it. Don't do it. Because if you do it, you're going to lose everything. And I was like, are you serious? She goes, do it now. While you can get out honorably, while you can get out and do everything and serve your time and did everything, get to school, do whatever you need to do. She goes, I'm warning you now that when you go back to that ship, you're going to probably go to captain's mast. Yeah. And I was just like...
So even though you won...
I wanted to stay in that, and it tore me apart because I didn't want to get out. I wanted to retire. Right. But I mean, good things come out of it, though. I mean, I got to have my son. I got to meet my wife. I got to live a good life still. You know, when you're in the picture, like when they said, when you're in the event of what's happening, the whole world is falling apart. Right. You're not seeing... The path is there for a reason. Obviously, there's something better. Right, yeah. This isn't it, but you're just stuck in a bubble that you're like, oh my God, my life is over. Oh my, I have to get out. What am I going to do? And this and that. And no, it was really easy. I came home. They're like, welcome home. I was like, thanks, man. And just got to work and did military contracts and still did everything and realized life was a lot better because I could be myself. Yeah. I didn't have that hover over me of, oh, you're going to make rank, but you better make sure they don't see you holding someone's hand because it's over, or, you know, you can't go over this person's house because it's over. Like, I didn't have that. Now it was like, oh, what do you do? Kick me out? Yeah. You know? I've already got all of it. I'm out. Yeah. I'm good. You know, whatever. Yeah. They're like, oh. I'm like, I'm a military contractor. And they're like, oh. I'm like, yeah, I don't fall under your rules. Yeah. It's all good. Yeah, I'm going. That's good. I'm going. And so I was more comfortable to still be able to do what I love. Right. And but have be yourself. That freedom. That was like the best part of it. Like I got so used to uniformity and comfort and way of being, but I was lying to myself the whole time. And that's what I discovered when I got out. I was like, wow, I was with blinders the whole time. I missed so many opportunities because I was stuck on don't get in trouble. Don't lose your rank. Don't lose whatever. Because that's what your life is when you're in. Yeah. When I got out, it was so like awakening, and I dated so many people. Yeah, and you said you mentioned a wife. You found your wife during that process when you came back. I did. Where how did that come about? We were both at the Marine base in 29 Palms. Okay, so she served too. She served also. She is actually ex-Army. Okay. Yeah, she's a veteran for the Army. Okay. So we both met on the Marine base. We were on a military contract, which means we ran crews. Okay. And so I was Sergeant 1, she was Sergeant of the other. So she was already like a queen. Yeah. She was in charge. And I was like, oh, look at her with her little power. Okay. Okay, she's got some strength. She's a little badass. All right. You know, and she just carried herself very well and very strongly. And I was just like, okay. And we were friends before. Okay. We met and we were friends and we got to get along and just be friends. So it was a kind of a cool like way it grew. Yeah. And you know, and we ended up together and had our son. And I had him at 30. Okay, you had him. I waited. Okay. We waited because I believe, I tell a lot of people this. Us being together for 19 years now. 19 years. That's a long time. Going on 20 years this June. That's awesome. It is. And we've only been married, funny enough, 5. Okay. So together that long,
married. Did it change like they say once the marriage? Did it change anything? I know financially, like when it comes to taxes and all that, that changes. Yes. But like within the relationship, do you feel like it was just like the same, or you feel like
no? There was like a shift.
Yeah,
there was a shift.
Yeah.
I call it. I didn't get married for the longest time because I know this sounds weird, but in my family we don't get married.
Okay.
We just kind of like together forever, and it's a rarity for us to get married.
Okay.
So I didn't really see the whole point of it. Mm-hmm. And and she'd be like, "You want to get married?" No, we're good. We're good just the way we are. Yeah. We're fine, because I always believed in the curse that like it falls apart when you get married.
Yeah.
Because like that's what I've seen is like some family when they get married, and it's like, oh, that came out tragic. it's like wow, okay, that's travesty over there. I'm not even gonna go over there.
But you're known for breaking generational curses within your family.
I am, which they were shocked when like I finally, she was like, Seth was 16, 15, and she was like, well, we've been together a couple of years now. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, going on like 15, 16 years, and she's like, okay, so how about it?
Is it time?
Like, can we get married now? And I'm like, it's COVID time.
Oh.
So the worst part is we got married, we got engaged in COVID, and we couldn't have like the bridal party or anything because COVID had just hit when we were making our plans.
Oh, wow.
It had just hit. So I couldn't even have my family or everyone over because you couldn't do big crowds.
Right.
So we got married like at the park in a cute little ceremony. And my son walked me down.
Oh,
it was really cute. He was so happy. He's like, you guys are finally married. I'm just like, wow. Really, son, you too? He's like, conventional, Mom.
Yeah.
You've been together for how long? Right. You need to be married.
Right. Pretty much common law marriage.
Yeah.
Right? At this point.
But I sat there, I was like, but son, the curse. The curse.
No, you break the curses.
Which is true. We got married and like there was a shift a little bit of insecurity, which it happens, that fear, like, okay, now that we're married, like that focus, it's like, okay, now do we have to change things?
Yeah.
Should we do things differently? Should we act differently? Should we, and you do get that little bit of like that annoyance, that nervousness.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
you would think it would be like the complete opposite. Now you signed this paper, you ain't leaving me.
You're stuck with forever. Yeah. This is forever.
Like you would think like now that the paper is signed, you ain't going nowhere. We're going to have to figure this out regardless of what it is.
It is. And it did. The dynamic changed a little bit, but not too much, but enough to where we both were like, I don't know if I want to do this now. It's like, why does it change so much? Yeah. What happened? And it was just the communication, like, shut down. Like, I tell a lot of people, 19 years, you have to give grace to the fact that you change yourself. Every couple of years, you do change your habits. You change yourself. Something, like, comes at you more. Something comes stronger. Mm-hmm. Well, you have to give the grace to that person you're with, too.
Exactly, yeah.
They're changing, too. And, like, a lot of times I've heard a lot of my friends fight because they don't talk to me like they used to.
Yeah.
They don't hang out with me like they used to. You like different things now. They like different things now. Mm-hmm. They're giving you space for you to learn yourself. Right, yeah. Don't take this as a shutting down period. Mm-hmm. Don't take this as we're not going to make it period. Take it as it's time to relearn each other.
Yeah. And 19 years, you have to relearn a lot.
You do. And you do learn. Like, I'm at the 4-year mark, I have a lot of friends. I tell them, give it 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. After 3 or 4 years, if you guys haven't changed, then walk away. If you can't change and make each other better, because the point of a relationship is you both make each other better. Exactly. You both climb those arches as you go because you're making each other better. Yeah. If that person doesn't take you out of your comfort zone just a little bit, you're wasting your time.
I'd say my relationship's doing pretty good. Then we're on year 5, so it's been a lot.
It's the grace of patience.
Yeah, definitely a lot of patience. A lot of patience.
Yes. And
I'll say that on both ends. Like I know I'm a lot to handle too, and I've like evolved. Like these 5 years, I've done a lot, moving back, whatever it may be. So like, yeah, you're right. You definitely just have to relearn each other.
You do.
Communication is the key.
And and I've always say forgiveness is a key. Forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And not forgive, remember, bring it back. I mean, forgive, let it go. Okay, don't forget it because it was a lesson. Yeah. But don't keep bringing it back. You forgive and walk the hell away or be done. Yeah. Don't keep bringing it up. And I mean, like cheating or, unfortunately, there is that happens. The cheating happens sometimes. Mm-hmm. Now, I've told a lot of my friends, oh, I'm so pissed at her, or I'm so pissed at him, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, stop. Do you love him?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. 2, can you forgive? If you can forgive, you guys will make it.
Yeah.
If you believe you truly in your heart they won't do it again, like it happens, shit happens, life happens, weird crap happens. You know, forgive. And if you're not gonna forgive, walk away now, because it's just gonna be horrible for you.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I wouldn't forgive.
You would not?
I wouldn't forgive. I wouldn't forgive. Not me. I ain't got it in me.
You know, it's just not within you. It's just not.
Not in with me. Because how you said you forgive, and I would bring it back up. I'm bringing it back up.
About 3 years ago, babe.
Yup. Remember
about that sandwich you ate of mine?
Yep,
I'm pretty pissed about it still.
Yeah,
it's a good sandwich.
Yeah.
No, but I get what you mean. Like, yeah. And that's where you have the clarity of what you expect.
Yep.
And like they say, people disrespect you at the level you let them.
You're right. Yep.
The level, and it's what you're allowing. So it's up to you. And like you said, I'm done. This is it. This is what I did, and I don't accept it and move on.
Yeah.
You know, where we've been there. 19 years later, we've been there. I've done my dirty deeds.
Yeah.
And you know, and she's a good girl.
Yeah.
She was like, "Are you done? Are you done?" Like that's all she would do. Are you done? Are you done? Because I wouldn't tie down. Yeah. And I was like, God, she's so good. Yeah. She's such a good, wonderful, strong person to be dealing. Because I'm a lot to take in too for her. I'm a lot like, cause like I'm very friendly. I'm outgoing. Like she's more. I'm a social butterfly where she's more quiet and keeps to herself. And I'm just like, come on, babe.
Yeah. I see, and that's good. You guys balance each other out. I feel like I'm the same way with my partner. I'm that person. I'm very quiet. We go into public. My partner just talks to everybody, and I'm just like standing there. I'll chime in every now and then, but I'm like, I'm just here. I gotta have a drink in my hand, or else I'm feeling nervous in the room. Like, gotta be sipping on something. But yeah, it's you guys seem like you guys balance each other out. And that's good.
We do.
And you said you guys conceived together. Like, how did you guys get
with my son? Yeah. Well, I actually, before I got with her, I already had him. Okay. With the partner before, because I'm bi. Okay. So I had been with a partner before, and one of my best friends actually offered to me. Oh. And that's how I ended up with my son.
Were you with, so you weren't with her when you had
No, I was not with her. Okay. It was like 2 months before I met her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she took on, that's how she's a strong, I'm telling you, she's a strong woman. She took on a baby and a woman.
So were you wanting to have a kid by yourself, or were you
I
just like,
wanted,
I'm 30,
I need to have a child now. Yeah. I'm done. I would have 5 or 6 kids if it was up to me. Yeah. It really would, but my body wouldn't continue on. Yeah. So I was like, wow, through trauma in the military, unfortunately, physical trauma in the military, I can't have children anymore. Okay. So that's an unfortunate outtake from that.
Yeah. So you were blessed with one.
I was blessed with. He's our miracle baby. Okay. He's our miracle baby.
Nice. Yeah. And so you just were like, you hit up your best friend. You were like, hey, I want to have a kid, or.
Well, my best friend hit me up.
Your best friend.
One of my best friends, he was like, you'd make an amazing mom. You want a kid? I was like, what? Sure. Okay.
That was like one of those things. That's one of the things you'd say.
That is kismet right there.
When you're in high school and you're like, if I don't find anybody by this age, we're gonna just be together. We're just gonna have a kid. That was
like a setup. That was like, so you're still doing your thing, right? Like, you want a baby? It's like, yeah. Yeah, I do. Let's do this.
I'm hitting 30. Gotta do it.
I gotta do it. Well, I did have a girlfriend at the time.
Oh, okay.
I did at the time. I had a girlfriend, but she was, unfortunately, I lost her to drugs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I tried for years, but it just wasn't working. So we were together, and I didn't know the drugs had restarted when we started planning. I didn't know that the drugs were reintroduced into our lives. And I got with my bestie. We did our thing, and then I ended up pregnant. And I'm like, hey, we're pregnant. And like, oh, that's great, blah, blah. And just weird things started going on, and money missing, and the usual signs. And I was like,
well, geez.
Okay. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't be in this. I can't bring a child into this. So I left and went with my family. My family showed up. My aunt showed up, and I left. Okay. So I met Jen already after having sex.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Was this in Kansas? When did you come to Kansas?
No, I was in California.
Okay, so you met her. Both of you guys met in California. Your wife in California?
She was stationed in California. I was stationed in California.
Okay. Why did you guys come to Kansas?
My wife is from here. I call it the Kansas curse. You know what the Kansas curse is?
No, when you come here, you don't leave?
You don't...
Is that what...
No, the Kansas curse, I call it, everyone I've met that's from out of state is because somebody from Kansas is from here. And that's how they ended up here. So I call it the Kansas love curse. Because that's how you end up here with somebody that's from here.
That's funny. I've had a guest that said they came here from Kansas already because of a relationship too, and they just didn't.
See,
they never stayed.
The Kansas love curse. I tell you, it's real. It exists.
So you guys just moved to Kansas. What?
Well, for us, it was, we had this baby. Mm-hmm. He was already like 2 years old, and just California was getting kind of rowdy and crowded, and just like violence was kind of raising pretty high. And now we were responsible for their life. Mm-hmm. So, Jen was like, let's be together. I'm like, hell yeah, let's be together. I'm down with that. You're amazing. Like our son chose her. Mm-hmm. Weird enough, the way she met him is she went to my sister's to visit to check on him for me because I was on base for 21 days. I couldn't come down. She was watching him for me because I had to be stuck on base. Mm-hmm. And Jen had the 15-day times, so she could come down. She came to see my baby. He straight grabbed her and held on to her. And she was like, oh my God, I love him. I was like, don't you? He's amazing. And she's like, yeah. And he just chose her. He never let her go after that. And every time he saw her, just in love with her. And he didn't like people. Yeah. Like my kid was the kind of, if you came up to him, he was like, ah, you're like, oh, whoa. I'm like, don't touch him. Yeah. He's a personal guy, okay? You just give him some space. Okay? Yeah. It's like a wild puppy. You just can't walk up and hug him, okay? You just gotta let him smell you.
Yeah. Let him come on his own time.
And he just loved her to death. And she was just my friend. Like, she was always there for me. Mm-hmm. So that's how we grew close, is we both served and got closer from being out in the field, because what we did was we trained Marines to come through, and we built a fob. It looked like Little Iraq. It had a mosque, everything. Okay. And we came out there and we would train them to react correctly. So we had actually a 60% divinity rise out of them coming through that training. Oh. So that was like a prideful, wonderful moment. That's why I did it. It was hard. It's hard on a woman to be out there in the field in the middle of the dirt wearing, a dish dash and all sorts of weaponry and everything. Like, it's a workout.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the heat, everything.
Up in the middle of the desert. But we met, and that's how we moved in together as friends. Mm-hmm. And it was really cool because she offered me a place to live with her, with my son. Mm-hmm. And that's how we grew out of that. So I think that's why we succeed so well, is because we were friends. Right. And we've been each other for bitter and ugly stuff. Yeah. That made us grow together. Right. 19 years later, we have an 18-year-old kiddo. And
so how is it like for you? Your partner is white. So how is it like for you, though, to transition from California, which is very diverse? Like, it's one of the most diverse places, personally, I've ever seen.
Disneyland. Yeah. It's the happiest place on earth. Everyone gets along. You don't have to be afraid of anything. Yeah.
To Kansas.
Yes. Kansas. It was an awakening. Mm-hmm. It was hard, especially traveling the world. Like, the world is so open and kind. Mm-hmm. Like, it is sad that kindness now is taken as flirtation. Kindness is taken as a flirtation or a way of you wanting to get in some way. And it's just like, no, I'm just being really nice to you. Yeah. Breathe. I don't want anything to do. I'm married, or I tell them, or I'm with somebody, or, I'm not interested that way. I'm just, hey, no. The minute they hear you're gay, it's like, oh. And I had to get used to that here. Yeah. That was the big culture shock for me, was people are more like, I know this sounds weird, but I don't want to say nosier, but they're more about knowing about your life. Yeah. Like when I worked at the hospital, and like as soon as I showed up, where are you from? What are you doing? I was just like, wow.
Yeah, you're right. Because like in Cali, it's like people mind their own business. Yes. You don't really. It's like, oh, how can we build together a network? Like if we do the same things, but not really interested in your day-to-day life.
Each other. Yeah, unless you've known each other from like high school, junior high up. Yeah. Then, because it's hard to let someone in. Mm-hmm. Well, me being in the military, going out there, like I got more comfortable with people to let them in, because you'd be surprised about somebody. Mm-hmm. Some of the most amazing people I've met are tattooed, drinking, swearing, drunken, crazy people. Yeah. And then some of the most judgmental, awful people I've met go to church every Sunday. Don't have a tattoo, or clean cut, whatever, but they're the cruelest people you'll ever meet. And it's just like, what is going on? Yeah. Like I expected the flip, but here it was shocking. Like I hid again. That's how I felt. I felt like I had to hide again, especially having a baby.
Okay.
Having a little boy, sending him to kindergarten. The weird part is Jen wouldn't go. I'd go to shows. Or she'd go. We take turns.
Okay.
And kind of not communicate too much with the other mothers. Because it's Kansas. Like I said, it's Kansas. It's not, and my first introduction was like, my son was playing with another child, right? Normal thing going on. The mother comes up and, oh, your boy, he's so cute. I'm like, thank you. Your boy is so cute. The usual pleasantries. And then she's like, so where's your husband at? I was like, oh, well, at the time she was my girlfriend, not my wife yet. I was like, well, my girlfriend's at work. She's working. And she's like, I'm sorry, you're what? I was like, my girlfriend, my partner, mother to my son, that. And she's like, oh, that's interesting. And I was like, I've learned that's not a good word. Yeah. Like in my head, I'm like, I've heard the word interesting quite a bit of times now. This is like the 7th time I've heard the word interesting. Yeah. And I was like, so about the play date? She's like, actually, you know what? I'll get back to you. I'll call you later or text you about it. And that was like the introduction to me of motherhood, of having a child and being what I am. And I was just like, oh, and then I just play it off, okay, that's great. The other part of me, the LA part of me wanted to be like, well, F you, the non-mother part of me felt like son, turn around, mother, I just wanted to go off like, you ignorant, hateful person, but I didn't. I wanted to be better than that, so. Right. And Jen's taught me to be less like ghetto in my actions, because I was more like, than logical, but that's also what the military teaches you, you can't fight every time, you gotta find different ways. And I was like, okay, well, thank you, ma'am, whatever. Never heard from her again. Yeah. See them at the school, and that's the uncomfortable part, is when you see the mothers at the school, and they're all doing a project. And, for me, as long as they didn't pull their children away from my son, I was fine. It's if they purposely would walk up and take their child and move them away from my kid because I might catch the gay cootie. Yeah. Might turn them gay by touching them or breathing on them. Or drinking their drink. I don't know. I guess it's spreadable. Yeah. I don't know.
Jeez. So your experience was more like coming to Kansas was like fitting it. Like, did you have any... Let me see what I'm trying to say. So, like, when you moved to Kansas, it was more of the shock factor that the community of being gay or part of the queer community wasn't accepted, not being a person of color. Did you feel like being a person of color coming to Kansas was also, like, different for you?
Yes.
What was that experience like for you?
Well, when I noticed I had a tan more than most people, I was just like, oh, wow. And I'm from LA, so it's just kind of like already our negative already. Like you're already nervous with police officers like pulling you over because you don't look like you belong. And, which I've had certain things happen that way where it was just like, I went to drop off my son and they're like, oh, are you the maid? And I was like, no. It's like, are you the sitter? I was like, no, I'm the mother. I'm his mother. Yeah. And like, oh, okay, because my child is mixed. I don't know if I told you, but my child is mixed. And so like sometimes he wouldn't like line up with us. So it's like, because they change so different. Their looks change differently, especially when they're mixed. They change. Like mine's changed so much being Asian and Latin. Like I've switched around so much. So he was doing the same thing where he was sometimes high yellow, sometimes he wasn't. It just makes different things. Yeah. But I did notice like certain like areas that you went to, you weren't as welcome or as comfortable. Like, oh, are you here to visit? It's like, no, I live here. This is my house. Yeah. We just bought this house. Like, oh, and then they would see my wife, and I kid you not, the shift. When my wife would come out of her car and be like, hey, like, oh, hello, how are you? And they'd talk to her and mingle with her and everything. And I just kind of stand there like, wow, okay. Yeah.
Have you and your wife had these conversations of just like the dynamic of...
Yes, it bothers her. It bothers her. I've actually been carded. Went to a store together. And the clerk saw her. We're like, as close to you as she's at the end of the car. She hands me her card because she's going to the end. And I go to, he's like, ma'am, can I see your ID? And I was like, excuse me? it's her card. He's like, well, I need your ID. I was like, and she's like, excuse me, I just handed her the card. You saw me hand her the card. What are you doing? And she of course pulled a Karen. She's like, I want to see your manager. I'm like, stop, don't do that, please. That makes it worse. Let's just don't, just leave it alone. I'm like, here, get your card. I'll get my card out. Here's my ID, you know, because we're so used to dealing with it, you know, it doesn't anger us or infuriate us as much as, I guess, my Karen wife. So, yeah. Where she was like, I want to see your manager right now because you're racist and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, stop. Yeah. Don't. Be graceful about it. Don't do this. Don't lower yourself. You have to learn that. And in time, you learn to humble and you learn when to fight. You learn when to argue, when to do stuff. And she's like, well, this is crap. You was right in front of me. He saw me hand it to you. I was like, breathe. This rage you got, we've had it for years. Yeah. We've learned to be at one with it and calm it down. We've learned to calm our blaze. Believe me, it's there. It's still, embers are burning. We just know when to flare it up. And this ridiculous moment is not a reason to do it. Yeah. I'm like, you're actually embarrassing me more doing this in front of them. Please don't do that. It's bad enough he pointed me out the way he did. And she was just like, well, that's just ridiculous. I was like, it's life. And for her, it was such a culture shock to see me go through it because she had never seen that before. Right, yeah. Because I'd hidden it, or like at the stores I've gone by myself, she started coming with me. And I was like, oh no. Like, part of me didn't want to tell her what was going on because she was so happy to be here with her family, and because her family's all from here. So I'm just like, I just want her happy. So I'll just deal with it like I do everywhere else. But it was a culture shock. It was like there were more, like, I didn't know whether it was either the fact of my tan or it was the fact of me being gay. So I was hit like double hit on that factor. And like, I've even gone to the comments of, but you're a mother. I've gotten that where we were at a school and
so you can't be gay because you're a mother?
Yeah. I was like, oh, do our pipes start working? Do we physically shut down? Is that what happens? No one told me about this information. I should have picked it up. And I mean, I've worked in hospitals for years, but maybe I lost that book. I don't know. But I looked at the woman and she's like, you can't have a child. I was like, he's right there and he exists. I sure as heck can. Right. Shall I show you how? Do you want me to help you? And she was like, oh my goodness. And she walked away and Jen hit me. She's like, don't say stuff like that. I was like, no, that was a fight. That was a fight. I was going to say something.
Yeah. It's interesting, like you said earlier, like your wife tries to like tell you, like tame you down a little bit, and then like you're having to tame her down in certain situations. It's like sometimes like you have that partner that understands you. Yes. And it's good that she understands like the situation and she's willing to stand
open to it. Yes.
Yeah,
and
she's stand up.
That's why I love her so much, though, because she's so, like, she says all the time, and I don't know if I could say it, but she's like, oh, white people. And I'm like, you're white. What are you talking about? She's like, so privileged. Yeah. So privileged. I was like, you grew up on a farm.
Did her family accept you? Like, or...
Not at first.
Not at first.
Not at first. They were barely accepting her for herself.
Oh, okay. Cause
for her being what she was. I was the special friend.
Okay, you guys are both special friends for each
other. Yeah, for each other. We were special. I was her special friend for like 4 years. Yeah. And like the family was like, well, I guess she's not going anywhere. And I'm like, we have a child together. Of course, we're not going anywhere. Yeah. It's just like a mother and father having a child. Yeah. I'm like, that's our baby. Yeah. This is us. This is. You know, and they're like, well, their question was, if we ever got divorced, if she, like, they don't want to lose Seth. And I was like, why would she lose him? I mean, God forbid we ever got divorced. I'm telling you right now,
But you signed the paper. You ain't going nowhere.
You're mad, go to the other room, take a breather, have a drink, come back. I don't care. Yeah. But don't. Right. Don't. You ain't leaving me. Right. And I told her that if we get married, it's forever. Forever. Okay. Forever. But her family was very not, like, they're Christian, hardcore. So, and I'm like, the mother's like, you don't understand. I was like,
oh, I do.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. Okay, my mother didn't talk to me for like a year and a half. Okay, it was very hurtful. It was very hard for me to have my mother not speak to me because of my choice in life. But I had to do it though, because it's the only way you can get happy is you have to speak your truth, and pray whatever sticks. And if it does, awesome. I've got you in my corner. If it doesn't, I'm just going to have to be stronger. Yeah. I'm going to have to make a chosen family, and that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I did. Like, I chose my family and chose my friends and chose what I was going to do in life, and that's what I have. But luckily, my mom got hit by whatever universe that hit her, and she got 3 of us, and now she's like, oh, yay. And we're like, Mom.
That is awesome, like the transition of like your side of things of what that happened, and that your wife's family is now accepting, and
they are
19 years loving. You better be now.
Yeah, you better. I'm here for life. It's over.
You better be now. It's we're here.
And they call our son their grandkid and their nephew, and their it's really cool. They're very open, and they're very comfortable. And I'm like, at first it wasn't. At first it was a little difficult to navigate through the special friends, and that's her buddy, and that's her buddy's son, and I'm like.
So I feel like you've seen a lot transition within the queer. Do you even like the word queer? Like, what is that word like for you? Since the older generation, I know, like I'm.
Oh yeah, I'm way the older generation.
They don't. Do you find that word to be offensive?
I do not, but a lot of my friends that are older. They don't like the word queer because I asked them once. I was like, why does that bug you so much? Because queer means weakness in some ways. Queer is actually only activating one side of what we are, not everyone. Yeah. And I was like, oh, so it's not inclusive for you, so that bothers you. They're like, yeah. And queer has always been used as a word of offense.
Right, yeah.
Instead of like, and they're like these young kids trying to take it back. Sorry! These young kids are trying to take back the word
but I
represent for it. And it's like, well, at least they're trying.
Yeah. Because I feel like it's the opposite. Saying queer, it just, there's so many a part of the community. I feel like that's the umbrella. So like,
yeah, isn't it funny how from one generation to another generation, it's 2 different settings.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you just like, from like you've experienced a lot with it being like the don't ask don't tell. Now in the military it's like grown a lot, so it's not like that anymore. What do you feel like, or how do you feel like the community has progressed in your eyes, like for the better? Like what do you see? Like you hear like the generation of just like, you guys are doing too much, you're throwing it in our face now, like this is too much, you guys, we don't need to see all this. But now it's becoming that, to just like more open and aware. How do you feel like the transition has been?
I think in the last 4 years, I'm going to say it's been more in your face. It has been more like, bam, here we are, accept it or move on, which in our time was not a safe time. And I think, and that's what I tell like the older generation of my friends, when they're like, oh, they're so out there and so, flamboyant and blah, blah. I'm like, well, think about it. We never were. We weren't allowed to be. Even if I wasn't military, just from family background, like we weren't allowed to speak up. We weren't allowed to express who we are. I'm like, I think it's pretty nice that these people are blessed and so it feels safe enough that they can do so. Think of the change from our times in the 90s and the 80s where we weren't allowed. Like, we got beat up. We got messed up. I've been beat up and messed up for being gay. I have physically been attacked at least 3 times.
Damn.
For being gay, for coming out of a bar and how dare, and you're a girl, you should love men, blah, blah, those type of people that I've run into and just physically got in altercations. And just like, okay, well, they don't have that no more. It's rare. It's a rare now. That's such a shock now that when it's mentioned, it's such a rarity that oh my God, somebody got beat up. For being what they are. It is a rarity now compared to before in our time. And I've told a lot of my friends.
Now it's considered a hate crime. Now
it is a hate crime. It is, and you will do your time for it. And it is pointed out now. Which I said, think about the freedom they have more now. Which I understand, like the flamboyancy of it. It's that saying of. I'm like, it's like saying a woman wearing a short dress asked to get in trouble.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
That's how I feel. Yeah. Like, you guys are viewing it. You guys are viewing it as, oh, well, they asked for the trouble because that's how they dressed. Are you saying it's okay that this woman was assaulted because she dared to wear that dress? Well, no, of course not. I'm like, okay then. Now see if it, this new generation. because they're standing out more for themselves and they're speaking up more and they're making more freedoms and rights for us. They've opened doors for us that we never had.
Yeah.
Think about that. We're able to do that now because this generation said no.
Yeah.
Enough.
Exactly.
This is it. As of the flamboyancy, does it get them in trouble? Yes. But not like before. Mm-hmm. I think it's their right to be this way because it's a beautiful. They're able to express themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm more in the middle, like they say, the Gen Xers. We're like the snipers. We're in the background, and we come up because we grew up before AOL. Yeah. AOL. Yeah. So I've got to see like the changes.
Right. Yeah.
Within these, I'm about to hit 50, so I've lived in the 90s, 80s generation. Right. Now in the 2000s generations, where I get to see these just crackheads, and it's like you're so busy fighting each other. Yeah. The reason we'll grow and be stronger is stop fighting each other and having expectations. My generation did have the expectations of be quiet,
right. Because you were told to do so.
Yeah, you were told. It's what you were taught. Yeah. And it's what happened. And for me, I love that now I can walk down the street and hold my wife's hand, and not worry that something's going to happen to us. Right. Yeah. If anything, if something happens to us, they already know what happened. Yeah. Because people stand out now with their hatred and their way of wanting to be in their physicality and how they react to us. And it's like, hey, like you see the trouble coming a mile away. Yeah, exactly. Certain crowd, and they make a face or they make a comment, and you're like, we know nowadays, like, okay, walk away, get away. And like, I think the part of my older generation that gets upset is the fact that you get in fights. Like this generation will step up to somebody and say, what's your problem? Don't talk to me that way, this and that. And I think that's what they mean by their flamboyancy. Is the fact of walk away, do not fight. I think that's where the generational gap is not meeting and not blending well, because it's like, well, you fought with them, you should have not spoken up, you should have walked away. I think that's where the generation gap is there. Yeah. And I don't think that'll ever change for them, honestly, because they're the quiet generation, Yeah.
And like, you were literally programmed to be quiet. Don't ask, don't tell. Yep. This generation is doing something that they didn't do, like, but I feel like
it's fear mongering, like they're afraid that something's going to happen to the generation.
Yeah. The fear is because they've seen the fear that happened to them. Yeah. But don't get it twisted. Without the don't ask, don't tell era, this generation would be where we are today. Like, I feel like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. We've seen like what it was, and just like now it's like we don't want to do that. We don't want to have to hide ourselves and not say anything. Like we want to make a change. Yeah,
we deserve a life too. Yeah. We deserve to exist. Yeah, and it's true. Yeah, like I wouldn't have my son and my wife if I and us stand out, and my son wouldn't have the freedom he has. I love that I can have my kid come home to me and say, I like a boy, I like a girl, I like them, whatever. And I'm like, sure, okay, cool. What do you want to do? Yeah. What do you want to do? Do you want to plan something? Do you want to do, like, we're supportive of him. Right. We've broken that generational gap where it's like, I didn't do that. You have to be, don't be with people, baby, and don't talk to people, or don't do this. No, I'm like, get out there. Yeah. The only thing I worry about is like, I've had where my son is mixed, where like my wife made the comment the other day. It would kind of bother me, but I know she didn't mean it like in a negative form. She said, be careful as you walk out. Be careful walking down the street on your own, son. No offense, but you're tan. And I was like...
He has to have that conversation, though. Like,
yeah, he does. He needs to... And I kind of sat there like, what are you doing? Yeah. And she's like, well, look at him. She's like, it's no offense, but I'm saying it as a white woman in a white neighborhood. Our son doesn't look like he belongs. Just like I've been pulled over in my car. And I didn't get a ticket. They pulled me over, said my car looks suspicious of being stolen. And they just wanted to make sure. And I was like, with military plates. A car was stolen with military plates. Oh, no, ma'am, sorry. We just had to make sure. Thank you, have a good day. And got in their car and drove away. Yeah. After I showed them it was my car and it was my stuff. And I was like...
Yeah. And that's the reality of it is just like being a person of color living in this world, having those talks with like the younger people, knowing like you do have to move a little different. You do have to be aware of certain things,
which we tell them all the time. Like we make them aware. And one of my friends actually said, "Well, aren't you like setting them up for failure?" I was like, "No, I'm setting them up for safety. You don't understand. You don't get it." And I told her, like, you're an American woman. Okay, you don't have the thing where you get pulled over. You don't have the thing where you get carded. You don't have the thing where you're suspect automatically just walking out the door.
Yeah,
I'm like, we have that.
Yeah,
we grew up with that sense. I mean, I grew up in East Los Angeles, which is mostly Latin community, and I didn't blend in well, of course, because I'm like mixed, and so they were just like, no, no, and I was like, yeah, I live down here or whatever, and they're like, no, you don't. No, go home. You don't belong here. This is your thing. And it's just like, okay. And then I moved to Kansas where it's like I'm treated just like if I did grow up the same way. And that point stood out so much. And it stood out with him. Yeah. When I had, like, when she said that, I was like, wow, that's a shock, but it's true. It's true. Like, he should be careful going out in the neighborhood and have somebody be like, hey, there's this, you know, suspicious looking kid, which all he's doing is taking a walk around the block because he loves to take walks around the block. Yeah. But that was the first time it was pointed out, and I was just looked at her like, why would you say that? Yeah. She's like, because it's true. Yeah. And it's just a reality that hits you, like, because he's my baby and I'm not seeing. Yeah. He's like, he's innocent. That. He ain't out here doing nothing. He ain't gonna hurt nobody. He's a great kid. Yeah. And, you know, and she's like, he can be as great as he wants, but he still looks the way he looks. And I was just like, okay. Yeah, that is the reality of it. It is. And I was like, oh my God, you're so right. You are right. Like, we wanted to buy him a nice car. And you know what the weird part that hit us first was, will he get pulled over? Like, that honestly was the first thought in our head. Will he get pulled over for being in a nice car like this? Will it blend with him? Yeah. You know what I mean? And it was a thought. And it's like, since I moved to Kansas, these thoughts are getting stronger and more aware compared to California. Like you said, it's a melting pot. Nobody judges nobody. Everybody's cool with everybody. Like, so diverse. They're not like here either, where everybody gets everybody's business. See, I mean, here, like, everybody's like, what do you do? Where do you live? What's your favorite color? And I'm just like, hello? What are you doing? Like, I didn't see you at my mama's table. Yeah. We weren't eating dinner together. I didn't see you. And they're like, oh no, it's a Westerner thing. We like to know. Be nosy. Yeah, we like to be nosy. Just say for what it is. You like to be nosy. They're like, we're Westerners. We're just being accommodating and we're getting to know you. And I'm like, you're nosy. Yeah. You're just nosy. But definitely. Definitely. Okay. Just nosy. Just nosy. Yeah, I think it is important to have that conversation. Just being a person of color, and like I said, you just have to move different. But yeah, what is one thing you would like to leave the audience with today? Every day is a learning day. Every day there's something you could take in life, good or bad, and take the lesson from it, and like love you. Don't worry about loving anyone else. Love you. Love who you are. The ridiculous part of you, the crazy part of you, the calm part. Just love every whole part of you. As a woman about to be 50, I'm going to tell you right now, you're the biggest support team in your life. You've got to love you. And I've noticed a lot of people in the community, they don't love themselves yet. They don't accept themselves yet. It's like, oh, baby. Yeah. Wake up. You're amazing. Yeah. You woke up today. Congratulations. Yeah. You did it. You woke up today. That's all that mattered. You're existing in this world. Keep going. Yeah. The only one that could say no to you was you. Yeah. I like that. You know, remember that. Love you. I like that. You are going to be your biggest supporter when it comes to this. And I think that's a great message to leave with. Is just like, you're your number one supporter. You have to push yourself in ways that you can't expect anyone else to, and just believe in yourself and keep going. Angel, thank you so much for joining me today. I think your story, your takeaway of being in the military, what you had to deal with, like the don't ask, don't tell, and the growth that has come within the military now, and just your family dynamic, having a kid, like working with the ASL community, like your story is going to reach a lot of people. And good. I thank you. It's you got a story, that's for sure. You've dealt with a lot, and you're a strong individual. And again, thank you for your service and all that you've done, and being a part of Kueen Talk today. Yes, of course. Whenever you want me, I'm here.
Yeah, I definitely would like to bring you back because I feel like having different generations on here all at one time and just like having a group conversation would just be great. I think just like the little bit that we had of just like the differences that you talk to your peers of what they think and just like my generation and then people younger than me, like I think there could be conversations just like we need to rebuild within ourselves, our own community, and just get in tune with one another so we aren't fighting with one another and
stop that war with each other. We need each other.
Exactly.
We are each other. Like I'm the older version of what you're going to become.
Yeah.
You're the older version of the youngers are going to come. And we're trying to set a pavement. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Let's pave it together instead of a broken rocky road.
Exactly.
That's how they get us, is because we're separating each other. It's like there's too much hate already in the world to be hating on each other just because of our difference of views. You can have a different view of somebody, but still love them.
Exactly, yeah.
It's just, what's that saying? I can love you. If someone can hate for any reason, I can love you for any reason.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. I love that. I like that. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Kueen Talk with Angel. This has been so great. It's been a great conversation. Hopefully you guys have gained some educational purposes, just enjoyed it, took away something from this. And remember, I will be at Wichita Pride, June 29th from 11 to 4 at Century 2. Also, as you guys can see, we got the Kueen Talk merch. We got the Family, Friends, Strangers, Love, Be Nice shirt. We got the Kueen Talk. We got the Wichita Pride. So those will be available at the vendors that I will be at. So as always, you guys, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. But family, friends, strangers, love. Be nice.